Welcome back everyone. If you have not heard by now, Lakers center Christian Wood will likely be out for the remainder of this season. And that begs the question of, should they waive him and then replace him with a different player? If you remember back to when he initially got hurt, we talked about that here on the channel. I mean, as soon as I heard knee swelling, I already knew this could likely be a bigger issue than they were letting on. And well, that unfortunately turned out to be true. Rather than coming back within the 2-week time frame they initially gave us, Christian Wood will likely be out for another month if not longer. And again, that will officially end his season. Now, maybe he could make it back if they make a deep playoff run, but then again I'm not sure they would want to randomly throw him into the rotation after all that time off, and especially not after coming off a relatively long-term injury. And with that in mind here, they might be better off trying to replace him. They unfortunately do not have any room left on their 15-man roster, so they would have to waive him to create that room, which definitely could be a possibility. I mean, even with Jackson Hayes playing better lately, that's simply not enough depth. You never know when a player might get hurt, and with how little front court depth they have right now, they really cannot afford for that to happen. But with that being said, who could they look to replace Christian Wood with? And what would waiving Christian Wood mean financially for their team? We'll talk about all of that during today's video. Before we get too far into it though, I would like to invite you to check out our NBA Discord. If you enjoy talking about the Lakers or simply the NBA in general, then I guarantee you would enjoy it. Or if you don't have Discord, then feel free to follow me on Twitter, X, or whatever you want to call it to hear my thoughts on everything NBA related. There will be a link for both of them in the video description down below. But without further ado, let's dive right into it. And before we talk about who they could look to replace Christian Wood with, I think we need to talk about what might prevent them from doing it, with that being his contract. Now, we are only talking about a minimum level contract here, so there's not a whole lot left of it to be paid. However, it does not end when this season comes to an end. His contract is a player option for next season, and if they would waive him, then that would automatically put that contract on their payroll. I really don't think that's a big deal, as again, we're only talking about a minimum level contract here, but it's never a good thing to have an empty contract on your payroll, one that really does nothing for your team, which that contract would fall into. And not only that, but that would officially rule him out returning to their team next season. Now, I'm not entirely sure if they want that to happen, let alone if Christian Wood would even want to return, but that would be removing that possibility. And who knows, they might be looking to bring him back. After all, it's hard to believe that he would not bounce back. He had a pretty horrible year up to this point, but in my opinion, they often give up on new players way too quickly, and it would not be the worst idea to give him another chance. But then on the other hand, they definitely do need help right now, and simply put, Christian Wood cannot provide them with that. He won't be coming back anytime soon, and might not be back even if they make the playoffs. And with that in mind here, they need to have a real conversation about waiving him. It definitely will be a tough one to have, but then again, it would be even tougher to play a game without AD or Hayes right now. And let's say they would waive Christian Wood, who's even out there worth replacing him with? And well, I already know that many of you are going to mention Dwight Howard, so let's begin by talking about him. And simply put, I don't think he's a real option at this point. Not only from the fact that he's been out of the NBA for about 2 years now, but even more so with him now being 38 years old and not being the same player that many believe he is. I know you might be thinking of the guy that played for them back in 2019 or 2020, but that's simply not what they would be getting. In fact, they would not even be getting the same guy that played for them back in 2022, and that version of him was already barely playable. Now think about what he would look like 2 years later. Unfortunately, not everybody can age like LeBron can. And while Dwight Howard might still be playing overseas, that is nothing compared to the NBA. Don't get me wrong, I have fond memories of him with their team too, but I'm not letting that nostalgia fool me into thinking that he could be a productive player for them in the year 2024. And I hate to say it, but he's not a good option. If not for Dwight Howard though, how about a different frontcourt player? And while they have a limited number of options to pick from, there are a few worth looking into. And for option number 1, I always like to begin by looking at a relatively unknown player. And here we are going to talk about the current G League leader in blocks per game, with that player being Kyler Kelly. Up until this point, the guy has been blocking about 3 shots per game in only about 23 minutes per game. Pretty damn impressive. We're talking about a legitimate mobile 7-footer here, and if you take a look at what he would be averaging per 36 minutes, the guy would be averaging nearly 5 block shots per game, and that's ridiculous no matter what level you're playing at. Now, he unfortunately does not provide much on offense, but you can count on him for defense and rebounding. I mean, I can't say that I've watched a ton of film on him, but he does appear to be a pretty mobile big for his size. Now, I'm not sure I would count on him to be a switchable defender, but he does recover pretty well around the rim, and then he's athletic enough to be a lob threat on offense. pretty much the definition of a traditional big, which in this case could offer their team some value. However, if they are looking for a more proven option, and one that can offer a little bit more on offense, then maybe a guy like Meyers Leonard could pique their interest. Definitely not the shot blocker that Kyler Kelly is, but he is significantly better on offense. Not entirely sure if they'd be looking for that, but he would provide them with a legitimate stretch big, and one that could theoretically share the court with Anthony Davis during certain matchups. He might not be a great defender, but he is pretty difficult to move down low, and simply being a big body can help at times. Whether that's for matching up with a big physical post player, or simply to help rebound, there is a time and place for a guy like that. And then when you factor in his 3-point shooting, with him being a 39% career 3-point shooter, that is where you can find some value. Not the best option here in my opinion, but definitely not the worst one either. Though another option might be Marcus Morris, and I say might be because he did get picked up by Cleveland with a 10-day contract, but there is no guarantee they keep him after that contract ends. And if they don't, then that would free him up to sign with a different team. And while he might not be a legitimate center like Kelly or Leonard, he can fill the role of a small ball 5. And then he definitely can offer value at power forward too. Now he might not be the player that he once was, but he still can offer value here and there, with much of that coming from his 3-point shooting ability, along with his overall toughness too. I mean, we're talking about a high volume 38% career 3-point shooter here. And then while he might get on your nerves when playing against him, he can benefit your locker room when playing with him. However, I do think there would be some overlap here with Rui Hachimura. I think it might be worth it given that Marcus Morris is probably the most talented option available, but then again there is no guarantee that Cleveland won't bring him back. And with that in mind, our final option here will be Tony Bradley, my personal favorite option if we're talking about a traditional big. At only 26 years old, he's not washed up like Dwight Howard, and then he's significantly more proven compared to a guy like Kyler Kelly. He might not be the 3-point shooting option that Morris or Leonard are, but he definitely is a better rebounder and defender. And although he might not be on a team right now, he is a 6th-year NBA vet. And with him putting up over 14 points, nearly 9 rebounds, and about 2 block shots per game and only about 20 minutes per game in the G League, I think it's safe to say that he could be helping an NBA team right now. And maybe that team could be the Lakers. And even with them both being traditional bigs in the sense that they cannot space the floor, I don't think he and Jackson Hayes would completely overlap here either. With Hayes being more of an athletic, quicker big, while Bradley is more of a physical one, and that can make him a better option to throw at a guy like Jokic. Definitely not stop him, but hopefully help Anthony Davis contain him. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? If the Lakers would waive Christian Wood, who do you think they should look to replace him with? Comment your thoughts down below. That will do it for this video though. Big thank you to those of you who took the time to watch until the end of this video, and until the end of all of my videos in general. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.